What's up, Gov Seekers? How you doing on a Wednesday? You guys Gov Seeking it out? You having just a solid Gov Seek day? Whatever part of the world you're in. I'm enjoying some green tea in my delicious Government Secrets mug. I'm just going to put the product placement right by the face. Oh man, look at this. This is how everybody drinks tea too. God, I'd love to buy these in stores, but there's only one place to get them. That's at patreon.com/government secrets. Stick this in your mouth. I don't think that's a good ad slogan. Are you guys excited? I know I am. We're going to learn about fun stuff. Today. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. All those little analytical things help, of course. Lee and I are the two most censored comedians in America. So any way you can help us out is nice. So now, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Government Secrets with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Greer.
How you doing, man? That intro had extra panache this week. I feel like
it felt like we had to just I don't know, episode 183. You know, we're halfway to 366. I think we needed it.
You've always said when we get halfway to 366, it's going to be truly meaningful.
Yeah, 366 is going to be a big day. So we're halfway there. It's exciting. I'm excited about that. That's actually, yeah. So, how are you doing on a Wednesday, buddy?
Let me think. On a Wednesday, I am doing all right. Yeah, I'm all right.
How's everything going in your world with your new show and everything? All that stuff.
Good. Yeah, the last episode of Unredacted Tonight did very well, and I'll give a little preview of an announcement because technically we don't launch until June 12th, but I will be joining Means TV on June 12th. So Means TV is a very cool anti-capitalist, worker-owned streaming service. So, yeah, excited to do that.
That's awesome. So that's like the workers own the means of production, right? That's their whole...
I think that's where the name comes from, yeah. I don't think it was like a bunch of mean people got together and they were like, we're the means! We're all assholes!
We're going to push you down a flight of stairs and shove you in a trash can and steal your lunch money.
What about meanies? No. I think means. I think we're the means. Yeah.
We're the means. We're the means. That's cool. So is this going to become a regular thing, you think, for the Means TV, or just this is a one-off, or what do you think?
Oh, no. This is, yeah, I mean, unless it turns out they decide to hate me 6 months from now. But yeah, no, this is where we're going. Or if I get some awesome deal, if 3 months from now, HBO says, we really want your anti-capitalist, anti-Israel, anti-American empire show, then I'll leave Means and I'll go straight to the money.
So there's going to be a long, fruitful relationship. It means, it sounds like, it's just I don't see Hollywood making that kind of a pivot, but God, I would love it if they did. I would love to get that call too, but I am not.
It's an interesting situation because my brother has the biggest movie in America, not in America, biggest movie in the world right now.
What's the film?
Lilo and Stitch.
No way. He directed that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went slightly different paths, both in entertainment, though.
I didn't know he did animation.
I mean, he directs it. He doesn't. I mean, he draws the storyboards. He doesn't draw the Stitch. But yeah, it like broke all these records. It's in the top 10 PG films of all time. It's crazy.
No way. And does he
see a back end of that? Not really. Not really.
And does he tell people you're his brother, or does he just go, nah, the same name? I don't.
Yeah, when he's asked, he's like, I've never heard of that name before. Is that Is that like a camp of soldiers under Robert E. Lee, or what is this? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
who that is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
don't know. Yeah. Yeah, he goes, not only have I never heard of him, we also don't speak, is what he says.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic. Well,
we have two very exciting
really exciting.
stories.
I mean,
I don't-
we've got a slave escape, and then I was just going through the list of US wars in the 20th century. And it is there's a just a list of all the wars America's been involved from the jump, like from
yeah, because first I think you texted me. You just said you could go through the list of U.S. wars, and I was like, oh man, that's gonna be like 45 minutes.
And that's what I was gonna do. And then I was going through one of the first ones I saw was the Crazy Snake Rebellion, and we'll get into it. I was like, and I started reading it. I was like, oh, this is perfect. It is.
That sounds good.
That makes America great.
That sounds good. We can do that one first. I'm actually, even though I titled it after the George Washington slave escape, which will be the main focus of it, but it's actually top 10 facts about George Washington and his slaves that you probably don't know.
Oh, I'm sure it's good. He treated them well. He didn't get any of them pregnant. I'm sure it was all.
I don't have any rumors of him. Actually, you know how he didn't impregnate any of them? Because I think he was not one for impregnating, because he ended up having 0 children. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm descended from him by marriage. So he married Martha Washington Custis, Martha Custis, and that's she had kids and grandkids and nephews and all those things. So.
You're a descendant of George Washington?
we have gone over that, Graham. We have already gone over that.
I thought you were Ulysses S. Grant. I didn't know it went all the way.
No connection to Grant. You made that one up. I'm descended from Robert E. Lee, George Washington. Oh, another fun fact I can throw in here. I might have texted you about it. I didn't, but I've mentioned on the show. We've mentioned before that my great grandfather is Walter Camp, who largely invented American football because he separated it from rugby, came up with the point system and all this stuff. He was one of the first members of the Skull and Bones Society at Yale.
No, that I remember. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I think I just texted you that, so we have not revealed that to the viewers. Yeah, good lineage to be.
And now your brother's directed Lilo and Stitch. This is amazing.
Well, there's a straight line from Skull and Bones, early 1900s, to Disney live action movies. There's a straight line.
It's a straight line. George Washington to fictional characters that it just goes right through Skull and Bones and then
to blue wide-eyed aliens. Yeah.
Right. Was George Washington in the Skull and Bones, or was it not invented yet?
I don't think it was invented yet. I mean, the thing I saw said that Walter Camp was one of the earliest or one of the first members of Skull and Bones, which would mean it would only date back to late 1800s or something.
All right. Wow.
I feel like I've already exhausted you. Usually Graham's stunned, exhausted silence comes later in the show, but
this is a lot out of the gate. I got to deal with the Skull and Bones. I got to deal with Martha Washington. Lee, I only had time to shave. I didn't even wash my hair. You know what I mean? This is a lot of business.
There's a lot to take in, and we should go over it again. Are you taking notes?
I barely had time just to put on a collared shirt. I mean, this is the only time I wear a collared shirt is this show.
This is the most dressed up Graham ever gets.
I mean, I got my Buddhist beads. I got a surfer thing. I mean,
this is the most of his chest hair that's ever covered up, and it's still half visible.
I think my chest hair is probably the Skull and Bones created the Skull and Bones because my chest hair is just too much of a threat to them, and that's why they had to create a secret society
to fight back against your chest hair. I think that's absolutely true.
My chest hair, not me, but my chest hair is a descendant of Burt Reynolds. That's where it comes from.
His mustache specifically.
his mustache and the
Yeah.
burnt rubber from the Trans Am and the Smoking the Bandit movies created my chest hair. You put those things together, it's like a chia pet, and you put it on your chest. Yeah.
I feel like we're watching you have an aneurysm or something. The string of words that was just put together is really concerning.
I don't know, like I don't do smoke weed or anything, but I do feel like I'm high, like I ate a gummy. I don't know. I worked out this morning.
You know, too many green juices back to back.
That might be it. I have like a stimulant-free amino drink that I use when I work out, and maybe that's causing this.
Could
But
be.
anyway,
Could be.
let's get to segment number 1, the Crazy Snake Rebellion. For our listeners and viewers, here's a fun thing to go do. Just go to Wikipedia and type in list of U.S. wars or wars U.S. was involvement in. It's a lengthy list. If you just have only time for a little bit, go to just the wars of the 20th century. And you'll find this one, the Crazy Snake Rebellion. Now, even in the title is like misrepresentation of what happened. It's like,
It was like when the name of the war is propaganda, like the Vietnam War. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it the Vietnam War? Was it
Yeah.
their fault?
Yeah, I know. Which having been to Vietnam, they're like, that's the American war that they call it. Because those are the people who started it, was the Americans. So the Crazy Snake Rebellion. So yeah, in the title is propaganda that these crazy natives went nuts and they rebelled. And thank God the cavalry was there to save the day.
Stop those lunatics. Yeah.
Yes, they're such lunatics that wanted to keep their land. Well, you know, Lee, if you just dig a little deep, and by deep, I just mean Wikipedia, which we know is an arm of the propaganda machine. But
Yep.
I think Wikipedia, we've talked about this, is really just, it's a way for them to pretend that we have like a free press, because they're like, hey, if it's on Wikipedia. And so we always talk about this. This is what they're admitting to. You know, this is what they're saying actually happened. We're not like big advocates of Wikipedia, but we're saying like this is what they are.
Well, yeah. It's the stuff you can find, the stuff that's been admitted to, largely if it's like, you know, over 20 years old or sometimes even less, then the U.S. government doesn't really have that much concern in maintaining propaganda from several decades ago.
Right. So they'll just be like, and then again, we've talked about this before. When they do like admit the full story from decades or a century ago, it's always framed in this, but we don't do that anymore. You know, we've changed.
Those are the old days.
We're funding a genocide today and have been coming up on 2 years. So this took place in 1909 in Oklahoma. And even this is, again, in this list of wars, this is good propaganda. The Wikipedia says, what was the result of the war? The United States victory. Over who? Indigenous people that lived there? Like,
Yep.
This was also known as the Smoked Meat Rebellion or the Crazy Snakes War. This at time was viewed as a war between the Creek people and American settlers. It should not be confused with an earlier bloodless conflict in 1901 involving many of the same people. It consisted of two minor skirmishes. The first, which was actually a struggle between a group of marginalized African Americans and a posse formed to punish the alleged robbery of a piece of smoked meat. So it's like we're punishing slaves who were freed. We're punishing the natives. We're going after anybody that isn't us.
Yeah, and you might say that those groups have some grievances. You might,
in America? Are you sure? Like,
you might say they're a little bit justified in being upset.
just a hair.
Surely.
So the Crazy Snake was a very loose English translation of Chito Harjo's name. Chito Harjo was the leader of the Four Mothers Society among the Creek and an outspoken opponent of allotment. In 1893, Congress formed the Dawes Commission to seek to have the lands of the Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Cherokee allotted, which is a fancy word of saying we're taking your land. In 1895, Congress authorized surveying of the land, and in 1896, they passed a law creating tribal rolls and breaking up the land. Gee, why would people want to rebel about that?
It's really just rude to rebel. Like,
we're coming in, taking your land, splitting you guys up, and
we're also like, the number of you that are dying from disease as we come across the land would give people the idea that we are the devil. I mean, you're just mysteriously dying as we walk through the land. Like,
but it gets better. The Creek government decided to negotiate the terms the best they could. But in 1898, the Creek held an election at which allotment was voted down. They said, we don't want to go. We're not down with this. In response to this, Congress passed the Curtis Act, which dissolved the governments of the Creek and their neighboring tribes. So like, you guys govern yourselves on your land. And then we went, we don't like your government, so we're saying it doesn't exist. So they just said, you don't exist.
You can govern yourself as long as you agree with all of our decisions. And then when you don't, democracy doesn't look so good.
Yeah, your democracy doesn't exist. Lee, is there anywhere else where somebody's just taken somebody's land and said their government doesn't exist? Has that happened recently anywhere? Or I don't know. I don't.
And killed a lot of them, you mean?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot. I mean, the Cubs are in first place, so I'm not paying a lot of attention. But is there anywhere else that's happening?
Like Cubs clubhouse?
Maybe. I think they're all getting along. It's why they're playing well. There's no other.
No, I can't think of anything.
All right, neither can I. So after they passed the Curtis Act, so then in 1900 there was a meeting where Chito Harjo was declared the principal chief of the Creek by a meeting at his ceremonial grounds near Henrietta, whose people view Pleasant Porter's methods of introducing the allotment system to be in violation of the 1867 Creek Constitution. Again, the United States allowed these tribes to create their own constitutions and govern themselves, but then went, no, you guys can govern yourselves on crappy pieces of land that we push you towards because we're going to take the good land. And then if you resist us, we're going to say you're crazy savages that are rebelling.
Yep. Sounds about
America. Right. The meeting that elected Harjo also elected a second chief, a bicameral legislation, and established a court. Since the Creek Nation did not exist in the view of the American government, the legality of Harjo's election was not relevant at the time in the United States law. The followers of Harjo organized a group called the Light Horse to serve as a police force to enforce their view of the law. It was alleged that this group whipped some men for accepting allotment, but this is disputed by other writers. Trying to paint them out as like, anyone that didn't agree with them, they whipped them. Again, you guys took away said they didn't count.
Yeah.
In today's parlance, they would be referred to as terrorists, right?
They use similar terms to that. They would call them barbarians, savages, those kind of things.
Yeah. The anti-allotment activities of the Light Horse caused the 8th Cavalry to be called out and several of the followers of Harjo to be arrested. In 1907, Oklahoma had introduced Jim Crow laws. Again, this is the Civil War ended in 1865, I believe.
Yeah.
And these laws were very similar to the neighboring states of Arkansas and Texas. As a result of these measures, many African Americans faced restrictions on their residence. A group of African Americans who have been Creek freedmen, that is, descendants of slaves who had been held by the Creek, gathered at Harjo's ceremonial grounds. By July 1908, a large number of African Americans, some of whom were Creek freedmen, had gathered at Old Hickory, the site where Harjo and his associates ran the Creek government. In March 1909, the annual meeting of the Creek traditionalists, there was an allegation that one of them or their African-American allies had stolen some meat from a local white farmer.
Jesus Christ. You got to shut that down. You got to nip that in the bud. And you need to kill a lot of people if they're going to steal meat.
Maybe this is one of the first ever false flags in America.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, how easy is that to do? You just say a Native American killed someone and then you go kill 100.
Along with these freed slaves? Oh, you know what they're like. They're going to steal.
Because I don't know if you know this, no GoPros back then, no camera phones. It was
No
early time. So trying to prove, when they say, where's your proof that the Native Americans murdered? You go, well, I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah. I wrote it down on this banjo pad. So after this accusation, a sheriff's deputy was sent to arrest someone, but the African Americans drove him away both because as auxiliaries of the Creek Nation, they did not recognize the local county to have authority there, and because they had good reason to believe neither an African American nor a Muskogee Creek had chance of a fair trial, but instead had a high likelihood of being lynched. The sheriff's deputy organized a posse to enforce the arrest of the stolen smoked meat. Wow.
I always like getting together a good posse. It's a good old posse because that gets shit done. Posses, everything gets shit done.
And still, smoked meat is definitely something to kill somebody over. The sheriff's deputy organized a posse. In the following battle, one African-American man was killed and 42 other African-Americans were arrested. A second confrontation happened on March 27th when a posse from McClintock County attempted to arrest Chito Harjo, the Creek leader, who was holed up in his cabin near Hickory Ground with a few other men. At sundown, the posse was approaching the cabin when one of Harjo's bodyguards opened fire from a window, killing 2 members of the posse. The fire was returned, and a lucky shot hit Harjo in one of his legs above the knee. Eventually, the Creeks fled under the cover of darkness, and the death of the 2 Americans created a furor in Checotah and Harrietta. A larger posse returned to the cabin only to find a woman. The posse fired into the cabin and burned it down, and the woman fled into the woods. Nice. After the second skirmish, vigilante groups roamed the vicinity, pillaging snake farms in search of Harjo. Governor Charles N. Haskell.
Probably also looking for that smoked ham.
Yeah, they got to get that smoked ham. That's on the run.
Yeah.
That Slim Jim is running for his life. We got to hunt.
You send the smoked ham out and everyone will live.
What's next? If they steal the smoked ham, what's next, Lee Camp?
That's exactly right. Next is
milk,
smoked fish,
cream,
then smoked gingham, then smoked pipes.
Hey, what's gingham? I've heard that word before.
I think it's like an old type of fabric where you just buy like sheets of fabric to make your clothes out of. Do I have that right?
Was it also edible? Like you could just start gnawing on your shirt?
I don't think it was edible. Hence the joke. Let's see how far off I was. A medium weight, balanced, plain woven fabric, typically with plaid, striped, or duotone patterns in bright color or in white, made from dyed cotton or cotton blends.
All right. Now we got to the bottom of gingham.
So you're gonna eat some? You're gonna blend some up into your smoothies there?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna put little shavings over the top, little gingham shavings.
Gingham shavings, yeah.
The 1st Regiment of the Oklahoma National Guard occupied Hickory Ground with 200 men and quickly restored order. Oh boy, that is some propaganda. Harjo was never captured, though he likely died in April 1911 after the Choctaw Territory, either in the Choctaw Territory or in Mexico. So that is the Crazy Snake Rebellion. where the American government concocted it, said somebody,
I think the crazy part is chasing and killing everyone over some smoked meat.
that's insane. It's like, it's got everything. It's got stealing natives' land. It's got slavery. It's got just lynch mobs, creating crimes that didn't happen. Yeah, it's an insane time. So
But that was just considered a Tuesday back then.
yeah. And since we were talking about Hollywood at the top of the show, how come Hollywood's never made a movie about this? Why do we have to have this story should be told, and not from the point of view of the white lynch mob, but like
there's a lot of amazing stories that are not told out there because they don't really fit with the way the U.S. wants to portray their history.
Yeah, I know the U.S. wants to make another World War II movie. Like every year, there's a new World War II movie, or like.
Yeah. Well, people are hungry to learn about World War II.
Yeah, we just haven't covered it enough.
Yeah, hasn't
been
covered
enough stories about it. We haven't been talking about it for 80 years. We just still not sure what happened. Yeah. So that
Tom Hanks had to do something with his time. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. Now segment number 2. George Washington's slave escape.
So yeah, I'm gonna save the exciting slave escape for the end, but we'll go through the 10 facts about George Washington and his slaves that you likely did not know. Graham, and we're going to quiz Graham a lot in this segment. Graham, what age did George Washington first become a slave owner?
Gingham.
You are correct. I'm impressed you knew that. I stand by my Graham is having an aneurysm comment.
I would say that he was given his first slave probably when he turned 18. Like, son, you've earned it. Here's a slave. And
dude, you are impressively close. When Washington's father, Augustine, died in 1743, George Washington inherited enslaved people at the age of 11.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Do you think he was a benevolent slaver at 11? In addition, Washington was willed 10 enslaved people. As a young adult, Washington purchased at least 8 more enslaved people. So he had a few of his own, but he really starts hitting the slaver big time when he marries Martha Custis, because she was a widow and she was rich, and she brought in she added 153 slaves to his numbers, which eventually grew to 317 enslaved people, which, if you think about it, is like a city. Like, that's a town of people that you're acting like you own.
And like, was Thomas Jefferson the only guy at the Congressional Congress, where they're drawing up the Constitution and Declaration, that went, hey, we're talking about all these inalienable rights. Doesn't it seem weird that we all own slaves? Like, seems
all men are created equal. Not those. Jesus.
Not those. It's like, what's the modern day version of that? Never again. But
yeah, never again for us.
For us. Never again for us.
Let's see. So that was fact number 2. So now we're on to number 3. After marrying Martha Custis in January of 1759, George Washington gained control of many more people. The stark increase in the enslaved population at Mount Vernon at this time reflected similar trends in the region. The proportion of enslaved people in the population as a whole rose throughout the century. By the end of the American Revolution, over 40% of the people in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is where he was, were enslaved. 40% of everyone there was enslaved.
God.
Enslavers administered punishments to control their workforce. In his later years, Washington believed that harsh and indiscriminate punishments could backfire and urged overseers to motivate workers with encouragement and rewards. Still, he approved of quote-unquote correction when those methods failed. Mount Vernon's enslaved people endured a range of punishments depending on the alleged offense. So it sounds like beatings were not as common at Mount Vernon as some places, but that doesn't mean they didn't happen.
Oh, he was a benevolent slave owner.
He was one of the nice slavers.
Nice.
Also, he, as similar to Thomas Jefferson, he wrote about, or we have writings from him about, like wanting to be done with slavery, and like we're gonna. This isn't really. This shouldn't really be like this, and you know. But right now we need to keep it going because it can't. Like I can't free them, but one day they should be free.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody else can handle this. We'll kick this can down the road.
Yeah. Somebody else will totally free them. It's going to be awesome. You just wait.
Yeah. It's like climate change. Let the next generation deal with it. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 5, influences from both African and European religious practices can be found amongst Mount Vernon's enslaved population. Some enslaved people at Mount Vernon participated with local organized Christian congregations. Also, Mount Vernon's enslaved community developed at least one spiritual leader. Further, the enslaved population at Mount Vernon had contact with at least 3 other Christian denominations, Baptists, Methodists, and Quakers. There were also several remnants of religious traditions from Africa, continuing to some degree in Mount Vernon, including Vadoan, I don't know that one, and Islam. So there was a lot of variety of religion going on amongst the slaves at Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon's enslaved community took. Oh yeah, so that's the one about the runaway, but I have more on that, so I'm gonna skip that and come back to it.
Sweet.
Running away was a risky venture, and we can talk more about that in a few minutes. But yeah, well, we'll talk about it now. We mentioned this before that like some people, including the fucking idiot, dumbest human being on earth, Kanye West, have said like, oh, being a slave was a choice because look how long it went on. Why didn't they leave? Yeah, you fucking moron. Do you have any idea how tough it was to be a runaway slave? For one thing, you're running across people's property where they immediately know, simply from a distance, that you're a runaway slave, and they might just shoot you because no one's going to prosecute them for killing a slave. They might take you as their own. Who knows? But that's like what you have to run away through. That's if you can get away from your plantation you're on. And then at that point, let's say you make it away from all that. What do you do? Where do you go? Where do you like? You have nothing. You have no money. Even if you went into a place and tried to pay for something, they'd be like, "Who the fuck are you? And why are you free?" Like, it would be.
Well, let's be fair. They could run away and just start, making hip hop albums and make millions of dollars. How hard is that, right?
I think that's so true. I hadn't actually thought of that, and now that you've brought it forward, I withdraw everything I just said.
Thank you, Lee, for seeing the other side of it. I really am glad there's people like you in the world that can
Listen,
learn.
When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will admit it. Okay. So as a result of running away being so difficult, many enslaved people would find other ways to resist their enslavement, and they cover some of these. The Mount Vernon population frequently resisted their bondage through a variety of methods. Individuals utilized less noticeable methods of resistance, including feigning illness, working slowly, producing shoddy work, and misplacing or damaging tools and equipment. More active methods of protest included actions such as theft, arson, and sabotage of crops. Theft was a particularly frequent act of visible resistance. Over the years, enslaved people at Mount Vernon were accused of stealing a wide variety of objects, including tools, fabrics, yam, raw wool, probably gingham, wine, rum, milk, butter, and fruits, meats, corns, and potatoes. And I'm gonna go with fucking yeah, good for them.
Yeah, steal that shit, man. Like,
Steal
take what you can get.
shit you can. You're living in a completely morally bankrupt, upside down universe. Get at them.
Yeah, fleece them.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it reminds me of like what workers still to this day will do at like factories and things when the bosses, the management are treating them like garbage, and then oh, what do you know? A bolt fell into the machine, and now the whole machine's stopped, and we can't work for 3 days while we try and fix it.
Oh man.
I have a friend who I will not say which auto company he works for, but big union guy in the auto company, and he would say, yeah, on the factory floor, like management would do something wrong, and oh, some bolts fall into the machine. Interesting.
Darn it. Thank you, Alex Das Libe.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for supporting the show. So let's see. Here's a number. We're on a number 9. With precious little free time and control over their own schedules, enslaved people in Mount Vernon attempted to exert some control over their personal lives. Some spent their free time socializing at Mount Vernon or neighboring plantations where friends, family, or spouses lived. Yeah, often even spouses and families, like they'd get ripped apart. With, you know, everybody knows that. Like you could have a father could be sold to another state and you never see him again. But often when they're even kept together, they're at like neighboring plantations. So it's still like they talk about one woman who was, I can't remember if I have it in here, but she was she was working all day in the fields and then taking care of 6 kids at her little house on the plantation because the husband was at a nearby plantation and he couldn't do anything. He wasn't able to help at all.
God.
They would also play games. 1798 recorded, a visitor from Poland in 1798 recorded witnessing a group of 30 people divided into 2 teams playing a game referred to as Prisoner's Base, which involved jumps and gambles. Graham, tell us about Prisoner's Base and how the rules work.
I'm a little insulted. You would just immediately assume that I've been to prison. I have spent a night in jail, but it was not prison.
I thought you were the captain of the Prisoner's Base team. No,
I was captain of the Prisoner's Base team. No, the night I spent in a Chicago jail for drunk and disorderly, we didn't get into a lot of games. But I'm flattered you would ask.
I was not at all referring to your long stint in prison, but you took it there. So
wait a minute, no. Wait, I took it there. You asked me about prison games. How would I know about prison games?
I was just joking about the idea that you'd know the rules for something called Prisoner's Base. But thou doth protest too much. You were like, what?
I do not know the rules of this game. No, I do not.
Got it. Phone a friend.
Sadly, I probably know a bunch of people that would know the rules to that game, so I will not phone a friend.
All right, here's the number 10 fact you don't know about George Washington's slaves before I get to the Great Slave Escape. Washington wrote his will several months before his death in 1799. In the document, he left directions for the eventual emancipation of the enslaved people he owned after the passing of Martha Washington. So basically, he wrote in his will that Martha Washington gets them until she dies, and then they're free. However, of the 317 enslaved at Mount Vernon, 123 were owned by George Washington, so they could be freed by the terms of the will. But all the rest were technically, according to the law, because laws are written by rich douchebags, neither George or Martha could free the slaves, well over 100. I don't know what the exact number was, but that were owned by the Custis estate, basically by Martha's family estate. So even though they technically like went to her, and then in his will he said they get to be freed, they did not get to be freed and were then delivered back to Custis's grandchildren.
So did you inherit any slaves?
I only have, it's kind of like, it sucks, but I only have 3 left. So like, you know, you'd think it'd be more, but
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. Like,
and I just had, I have this weird thing where I don't like making them do stuff, so they kind of just sit around.
oh,
Yeah.
well, I still don't know about prison games.
No, thankfully, the only thing in our family that comes down from the Custises is Nellie Washington's hand towel. We have
Oh,
that's
right.
These are like very finely embroidered or whatever sewn hand towels, and it's signed by Nellie Washington, who I think was Martha's niece or something. I don't know.
Does she just write G-dub for life, or what is she?
What did she write on it? Yeah, she wrote G-dub, bitches. Yeah, that's exactly. No, she just wrote her name on it.
Have a great summer, you know, or whatever. I can't believe we're seniors, or whatever she wrote.
See you later. Thanks for the good times. Yeah, totally. It's one of those things where I'm not, when you have a piece of history like that, I'm not sure what to do with it. It's like, yeah, the Washington thing doesn't sparkle like it used to. So
I don't think I have any relatives that own slaves, because everybody came from like poor Ireland.
Oh man, you are missing out.
Escaping the potato famine. I just have a long history of just convicts and derelicts and whatever, horse thieves. You know, there's no autographed hand towel that anyone's excited about from my side of the
We actually do have my uncle's hand towels, but it's just because he dropped them off to be washed. We're not. It's kind of annoying, actually.
I think we should start a hand towel tier on Patreon. It's a Government Secrets autographed hand towel. Yeah, anybody of any relevance in my family tree at all.
You're like, well, my grandfather was technically a slave because he was doing prison labor, so I guess he was kind of a slave.
I mean, I'm sure some of my family was actual slaves, like in Ireland under the English Empire or something like that. They were indentured servants.
There you go.
You know.
Oh yeah. But you know, it was different times, Graham. It was different. You got it. People are of their times, and back then, slavery was totes cool. So totes my goats, slavery, bro. No, of course, whenever anyone likes to make those arguments, you're like, there were also people of that time who were like, slavery's fucking wrong.
Yeah,
like, there were a lot of them.
Going, this is wrong to own a human being and make them work.
Yeah, like loads of those people. Yeah. Okay, let's get to, I think, the most fascinating part of this, which is the escape of Ona Judge.
Ooh.
May 21st, 1796. Ona Judge fled her enslavement to President George Washington, while the first family resided in Philadelphia, which was then the nation's temporary capital. Pennsylvania began to abolish slavery gradually in the 1780s. Oh, so you know there were people then that thought that slavery should be abolished, such as Pennsylvania. But Washington was able to keep enslaved members of his household in Philadelphia by finding loopholes in the law. Oh, what did we say earlier about these laws being written by garbage old white men? That's how it works. So there was a law saying if you were visiting Pennsylvania, you could, of course, have a few slaves. I mean, come on. We can't just come to visit. Like, you can't just expect them not to bring their slaves. I gotta have a few. So,
have you ever been to Pennsylvania? You need a few slaves. Come on. There's
a couple slaves.
Just,
so there was a law saying if you're visiting, you could have slaves, but only up to 6 months.
oh.
So do you think, Graham, there's any way around that rule?
No way. These guys love the rules. They stuck to them. They didn't write them for their own benefit. Nope. They were rule followers. No way.
At 6 months, they opened the door and they said, you are now free. That's exactly how it always works. Here's an idea. Maybe at 5 months and 30 days, you switch out those slaves for new slaves.
Oh, look at that.
They would just send the 5 slaves they brought with them to Pennsylvania back home to Virginia, bring 5 new ones. The clock starts anew.
Fantastic.
So clever. So that 6-month rule really changed everything. Ona Judge, in her early 20s at the time, had learned that the Washingtons planned to transfer her to Martha Washington's granddaughter, Elizabeth Custis, as a wedding gift. And by the way, that one is not my line. It's not my line because my line is Eleanor Lewis Custis. My aunt was the 5th. She passed away recently. My aunt was the 5th Eleanor Lewis, and the 1st being Martha's granddaughter or whatever.
I'm never going to remember that.
I need you to remember this, girl. I need you to hang on to this.
It's not possible.
So, decades later, Ona Judge recalled her escape in an 1845 interview with an abolitionist newspaper in New Hampshire. Basically, while she was packing up to go to Virginia, so they were about to send her back from Pennsylvania, and as we already mentioned, Pennsylvania was free, so she's basically living as a slave in a land that doesn't have slaves, in a state that doesn't have slaves. And so as she was packing up to go, she knew that if she went back to Virginia, she would never get her liberty because she'd be given away to another place where she'd never get to travel at all. She had friends among the colored people of Philadelphia. And so she had her things carried out to them beforehand, which the Washingtons didn't notice that, a couple of her bags were missing, of course, because they would never tend to the bags anyway. So
Nope.
And then she left Washington's house while they were eating dinner so that they wouldn't notice until after dinner. Ona Judge, who had worked as Martha Washington's personal attendant, was smuggled aboard the Nancy, a ship that took her to freedom in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Judge knew that the moment she walked out of the president's mansion, that she would become a hunted woman. She would transform from the most trusted house slave for the most powerful American family in the country to a criminal guilty of stealing her own body away from her owners. Upon discovering that Judge had fled, Graham, if this were your slave and you had found out that they had fled, would you think, kind of just be like, well, I probably should not make a big deal of this? Or would you put an ad in, let's say, Craigslist or wherever people do ads nowadays to get your slave back? Like, hey, my slave is gone. Like that, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Craigslist is great. I bought a couch from Craigslist once, and
So you'd put up the ad saying your slave got away.
But yeah, only in that creepy part of Craigslist. You know what I mean? That's like blowjob for concert tickets or whatever. You know what I mean? That one.
Yeah. Put it up there. Yeah, no one's going to be concerned. Yeah. They're going to be like, this is actually one of the more tasteful ads compared to everything else that's up here. So the Washington family, put an advertisement in the paper It said, absconded from the household of the President of the United States on Saturday afternoon, Oni Judge, and then it goes on to describe her. Much freckled, very black eyes, bushy hair. She's in middle stature, slender, delicately made, about 20 years of age. Please return her for a $10 reward, which equated to the cost of a barrel of flour at the time.
A barrel.
As for owner Judge in 1797, by the way, they never caught her. She married John Staines, a free black sailor with whom she had 3 children. She worked as a seamstress and avoided at least 2 attempts by Washington's agents to capture her in New Hampshire. They went all the way up to New Hampshire to try and get her back. Judge died 1848 at the age of 75.
Wow. Washington spent all that time trying to find her.
I know. Being that devoted to, we got to get back this person we own.
What, man? And then on the back of the $1 bill, there's an Illuminati symbol. You know what I mean? It's just all.
But yeah, pretty crazy. And you got like, I mean, I can't even fathom. You really can in today's world. You really can't put yourself in their position, like try and picture what it's like.
Right.
But I can't imagine the courage to like, you know, that the moment you walk outside, not only are you technically a criminal, but you kind of know no one. You kind of have nothing. She got some friends to smuggle her onto a boat. Like, it's the level of courage is incredible.
The level of courage and the fact that there were a handful of people along the way willing to help her, and the fact she got away with that and didn't get caught when, like, the former president is looking for you.
I think at the time he might have been the president. I'm not sure though.
That's insane. I mean, like, hats
off. I guess
off.
we just look up the year.
Yeah, hats off for her getting away with it. You know, and nobody wanted to turn her over or get, I'm sure there was a reward or something, you know, like, and that's great. And that she was able to actually live a decent life and get married and have kids and stuff. And the whole time just be like, ha ha, suck it, Washington.
Yeah. He was still president because he put out that ad in 1796 and he left in 1797.
Oh, wow.
Because he was so crushed over the loss of his slave. He was like, I can't anymore.
It's put an ad in a paper. Gee, this is the part about watching they never told us. That's weird. We don't learn that. We don't.
It was not uncommon to put ads in the papers for your escaped slave. Also, they have the factoid that, and I assume it was mainly the first ones, but 1 out of 4 U.S. presidents have owned slaves. 12.
1 out of 4.
Yeah. 12 U.S. presidents.
Wow.
I'm hoping it was mainly the earlier ones. But not like George W. Bush.
Yeah, I mean, his dad was the head of the CIA, so you gotta. There's always a question mark over Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah, true. All right, well, that is it. The secret hidden facts about George Washington and his slaves.
Boy, the more you learn about him and this country, the better you feel, right? 2 things, again, every episode. These are 2 things we absolutely should have studied in school: the Crazy Snake Rebellion and George Washington's, the reality of who he was. Both of these things we should have learned in school, but we did not. And that's why you listen to this show, folks, because we teach you the shit that you'll never teach you in school.
Certainly not told that aspect of Washington, nor the fact that he was, I think, one of the 10 richest human beings in the country at the time.
Right. Well, we're going to go over to patreon.com/government secrets, where if you do that, you will unlock 81 or 82 segments. that are all bonus segments. We usually do what's called a Twigs, This Week in Government Secrets. We pick stuff that happened during this week back in history. And it's a great way to support our show. You can get merchandise. You can get the Government Secrets logo on a t-shirt, on a delightful coffee mug like I'm holding very close to my face, and a sticker.
Not close to his heart, but it's close to his face.
Not close to my heart.
No.
So
join us over there, patreon.com/government secrets. We have offered to do those segments as a bonus to members with shirts off, but we got requests that we actually put more shirts on. So there will be an extra shirt on for that segment coming up.
extra. If you want extra shirts, come over to Patreon.
You want to cover up just a little more of that cram chest hair.
I'll button this all the way up to the top for the Patreon segment, guys. That's what you're getting in the bonus.
That's the bonus. It's far more watchable.
It's far more watchable. July 3rd, I'm doing the game show Anything Can Happen live at West Side Comedy Theater here in Santa Monica. Those tickets are available at grahamelwood.com. If you're in the LA area, come out. It's a blast to do this show live. Marilyn Rice Cup's going to be one of our contestants, and we're about to reveal who our second contestant's going to be. And Ron Placone will be there, and other comedians, playing different political figures. It's a blast. July 3rd in Santa Monica. Anything can happen. Go to grahamelwood.com.
And check out the new episode of Unredacted tonight. leecamp.com/unredacted will take you to the full playlist. You can watch all 14 episodes we have so far.
Sweet.
Yep.
This has been Government Secrets, episode 183. G-Dub makes an ad for a slave and the Crazy Snake Rebellion.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody. Go to Patreon.